Composition says the frame, exposure says the mood. In this video, we continue the Capture One series with exposure tools. Now, let's start with the exposure slider. When you adjust the exposure, don't look at the image. Keep an eye on the histogram. The histogram shows exactly what is going on under the hood. So, if I drag the exposure slider to the right, the image gets brighter, and you'll see an entire histogram shift to the right as well. That's because exposure moves the tonal information in the image. Shadows, midtones, highlights, everything shifts together. If I drag it to the left, and then I apply a negative value, the entire signal shifts to the left, and the image becomes underexposed. One important thing to remember, when you edit in Capture One, all the edits are non-destructive, so don't be afraid to experiment. If you push something too far, just double-click the slider to reset it. Now, this image was shot in a studio with controlled lighting, so we don't need dramatic changes. Let's add something subtle, maybe around 0.3, and here's something really useful to understand. If I set the exposure to +1, that's the same exact as opening one full stop in the camera. So if I go -1, that's like closing down a full stop. So when you think third stop, +0.3 makes actual sense. The slider is directly connected to real-world exposure. Now, let's say we've pushed the exposure a bit too far. This is where the brightness slider comes in. Exposure and brightness are not the same thing, so let me explain why. When I adjust the exposure, the entire histogram shifts. But when I adjust brightness, the mid-tones are affected the most. The highlights and shadows don't move nearly as aggressively. So brightness lets you fine-tune the image without blowing out your whites or crushing your blacks. It gives you more control refinement. You can also combine both sliders for more nuanced result. For example, I can push exposure slightly higher, then reduce brightness just a bit to compensate. So now, let's zoom 100% on the skin. You can notice how this combination brings back some texture. It's subtle, but it gives you more depth and control. Of course, if you overdo it, the skin can start looking harsh, so it's all about balance. For me, right about here feels right. A nice compromise between exposure and brightness. And that's the foundation on how these two sliders work. In the next video, we'll move to the color tools and start talking about saturation and beyond.